Today's video is sponsored by a shitload of people, like obviously content creators that fearmonger about it and people in general that just go around and tell the whole thing about, oh my god, this game's gonna die, dead game, and just throw that around like it's nothing. Obviously I'm looking here at Outlast Trials in particular, so I'm gonna ask you a question. Why do you think a game becomes a dead game? And instead of giving you 10 seconds to think about, I will actually spare you the thinking part and actually give you the reason why most of you probably think that, and what the main argument for a lot of people is why a game dies and whatever. And it's the player count. The player count is a thing that you can track with Steam and so on and so forth, which basically tells you like concurrent players on average, what the highest peak was per month, blah 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 blah. And a lot of people use that as their main argument, not even necessarily to say, oh my god, the game is dead or whatnot, but if they disagree with a certain thing that happens in the game. For example, to pull a dumb example in Outlast Trials, I wouldn't be surprised if in a bit people will be like, oh my god, the blind mine nerf was pretty stupid, just look at the player count going down, and you know, dumb lines of argumentation like that. For the record, player counts can be pretty important, but here's my question. Why does it matter in Outlast Trials? Because the thing is, a lot of people don't want to swallow that pill, but Outlast Trials is a single player game with optional multiplayer component. Yes, the game is built on a multiplayer frame. Yes, it's advertised mainly with, you know, the multiplayer co-op thing in mind, because it's like the first Outlast game that is co-op. But that doesn't change the fact that I, as a person that has like 90 to 95% time spent solo, can enjoy every single aspect of this game solo, except for like some limited time events like Program Omega. But I can enjoy every single trial and every single program as of right now completely solo. So it is in huge parts a single player experience as well. Not to take away from the multiplayer part, of course, but for single player is also a huge part. So I'm asking myself, why do the player counts matter in that single player environment? Now, obviously you have the huge part where the whole search thing, like searching for people, is kinda scuffed right now, obviously, because the player counts are obviously down. That's obviously something that has to do with player counts, and I'm not oblivious to that. But a huge chunk of Outlast Trials player base are either playing solo or just playing multiplayer but with their friends. They're not looking for people to join up to. They're just, you know, hopping on, okay, let's play with my two buddies on a Friday evening, getting drunk or whatever the fuck. Like, these people also don't care about the player count. So, yeah, and the thing is, as sad as it is that the whole search function is kinda scuffed right now and you just search forever, unless you do actually yourself a favor and do stuff like join your official Outlast Trials Discord server and ask for people there, which they even advertise in the main menu, by the way. Like, other than that, what does the player count matter there? Like, literally, what does it matter there? And I feel that's like the only way Outlast Trials can actually quote-unquote die is if there are legitimately like one-digit player on the server. Like, let's say 8 people in total are playing the game, and Red Barrels is then like, okay, it's not worth keeping the servers up for that, so we're gonna shut it down. That's legit the only point where it actually becomes a dead game. That's literally the only point where that actually happens. And mind you, Red Barrels, I know this feels like I'm doing an ultra leap into a completely different topic, but Red Barrels is also an indie studio, which is important. Outlast Trials is not from some AAA company with like 500 people and it's like their annual release. It's not a game that's gonna get thrown out of the trash. According to the documentary and so on and so forth, Outlast Trials was a game that Red Barrels was actually passionate about making. And because they're an indie studio and don't have a lot of people like higher ups, like investors behind them that, care about the performance of the game, they won't shut down the game that easily. Because I think they themselves are also invested in playing the game to a certain degree. So I also find that pretty dumb if you then go ahead and, put Red Barrels in the same category as like annual AAA releases. I don't know, like Call of Duty or whatever game there is that can be easily disposed of, because that's just simply not the case for Outlast Trials. And I feel it also ties in the whole thing that I think the main problem is also just that gaming has really become the kind of thing where everything is supposed to be seen as a live service game where, updates come out every week, but they also are supposed to be great and they're also supposed to be bug free and so on and so forth. It's kind of this poison that like a lot of earlier live service games started, and it kind of triples down on games that Outlast Trials is supposed to be a live service game, and that video, by the way, that I'm making right now shouldn't be an excuse for them to, that it's okay that it takes so long to do content. I feel they need to step up their game, personally, my opinion. Like, that's not supposed to be a supplement excuse for them, but it doesn't change the fact that everyone's just seeing everything as a live service. To name another example, a game that I'm not really doing a whole lot of content for, but that I absolutely love to the core of my heart, is Sons of the Forest, which is the sequel to The Forest, and it's like getting out of early access in like 1 month. And people in that game also all the time go around and count the player numbers, oh my god, this game is dead, and so on and so forth. Sons of the Forest and The Forest from the get-go are single-player games. Multiplayer is literally a band-aid fix. Like, it's literally as a band-aid on that because people wanted multiplayer. These games are not multiplayer, so stop treating them as if they have to be live service multiplayer games. Just to give you another example there from, like, overall the whole live service thing. You wanna know where player numbers actually do matter? In games that actually need people to function, which Outlast Trials is not, as we have established. You know what kind of games? Like Dead by Daylight, Overwatch, Valorant, League, and so on and so forth. For these types of games, there it matters to look maybe at the player numbers if like some things develop and be like, okay, this is kind of concerning. You wanna know a small example where player numbers actually come now to mind and where it's actually getting interesting? TCM, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, obviously had a decent start, but then the player number also dipped and is now a bit struggling. Now that type of game, you actually want to look at player numbers, because you need, like, for TCM, I think you need 3 family members and 4 victims in order to even play the game and start the game. So yeah, that's actually a game where player numbers actually do matter. And then I'm being disingenuous because I don't know, I don't have any source for this personally, but that's what people have been telling me, that the huge portion of TCM players are console. So, even though I'm not saying that will happen, but in Trials it might also happen, that once console hits, a huge majority of the player base will be console, and then it's like, yeah, then the player base is fine, you know? Again, I just wanted to make this quote-unquote quick video just rambling about this, because it's just a thing. It's not even necessarily because it's an Outlast Trial issue, but it's just something that's been moving around gaming wherever I go, everywhere. And it's just starting to also piss me off a lot, because People are just saying, oh my god, that game, it doesn't update like every single Friday. There is no like new patch with new map and everything. So the game is fucking dead. The devs are stupid and don't know what they're doing. Look at the player counts. Because a lot of these arguments are just plain stupid. And obviously let me know what you guys think. Maybe this video was also kind of eye-opening for some of you. I don't know. Maybe I'm also stupid. And maybe some of my arguments here are also flawed. If that's the case, please also let me know as well. So maybe I can learn something from that conversation as well. But yeah, other than that, make sure to like the video if you enjoyed and subscribe for more Outlast Trials content in the near future. And yeah, other than that, have a great rest of your day and take care everyone. Bye bye.